Hi there, welcome to Beyond the Game. I'm Samantha Johnson. Here's what's coming up on today's show. It's been almost 30 years in the making, but African football finally has a new boss. Monaco knock Manchester City out of the Champions League, leaving Leicester City the only Premier League side in the quarter-finals. And refugees stranded in Greece are given a sense of hope thanks to a former European champion. Ahmed, the head of Madagascar's Football Association, has been voted in as the 6th president of the African Confederation. Ahmed won the Congress vote 34-20 against the former president, Issa Hayatou. Now, Hayatou had been charged since 1988 and oversaw a number of positive changes to African football. But a growing animosity between CAF and the new FIFA boss, Gianni Infantino, put him under increasing pressure to let go of the reins.
When you try to do something, you mean that you can do it. If I can't do it, I never start.
The passion of football that exists in Africa, ladies and gentlemen, is something unique. It's something that in other places of the world we are risking of losing. And I'm convinced that if we manage to channel and to structure this passion a little bit, the results will be phenomenal.
We talked about the latest ahead of the CAF election with the African sports journalist Juliet Abawua from Addis Ababa.
This is one man who has been campaigning for the last few months, and all that he has been saying is that he wants to bring change to the governing body. He wants to bring new reforms. He wants to bring change where that there will be inclusive people working in the governing body. It wouldn't be just few people benefiting from it. So this was what he sold to the delegate, and that was what I think worked. In the lead up to this particular election that we had here today, he was still going about doing everything possible, trying to convince the delegates that he's the right man for the job. I think it was a step in the right direction, because even before the elections took place today, FIFA President Gianni Infantino had a very powerful speech here, and all that he was saying is when he won the elections that people didn't give him the chance, but people wanted change. They wanted to bring out new reforms. They wanted to bring out fresh ideas. So he feels it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your race or wherever you find yourself. I think if the person is good enough, you should give him the chance to prove himself. It looks like the wind of change is blowing everywhere, but it's not just change. Now that you have the change, what are you going to do with the change? Now, there's a lot of expectations. People want to see the governance trickle down to the very last federation. When Infantino came, some of the federations got like $5 million to use for projects. They've never seen that amount of money coming from CAF. So they're hoping that maybe with Ahmad coming in and talking about reforms, talking about inclusive governance, talking about change, it will also bring in all this discussion so that they will be on the level peg, and it wouldn't be just maybe a few people close to the action who is benefiting. Now the change is here. How is it going to trickle down? How is it going to help everybody to get the inclusive government or the inclusive participant that they want? And what he said was they are going to involve everybody. So it's not just going to be just the 54 or now 55, because Zanzibar, they got full member, they've come on board now. It's not just going to be the federation heads. They are going to involve everybody. And Ahmad also, in part of his manifesto, he said he's going to also involve the ex-players. He mentioned the likes of George Weah. He mentioned Samuel Eto'o, who has also been doing stuff with CAF in the past. So he's going to bring everybody on board and ask for their ideas. That is what is key to him, asking for their ideas to help develop the game.
Moving on to European football, and Manchester City have crashed out of the Champions League after a 3-1 defeat to Monaco. It's the earliest Champions League exit for Guardiola as a manager, whose team squandered a 2-goal advantage from the first leg. And now Monaco are through to the quarterfinals, and it was no surprise for many. Despite struggling to attract fans, Monaco have a very strong home record this season. In all competitions, they've won 21 games and have only lost one, giving them a formidable win rate of 87%. And Monaco strikers once again found their rhythm thanks to the manager Leonardo Jardine's attacking philosophy. They've scored 126 goals in all competitions this season, making them Europe's most successful striking force. And they've done it whilst developing a young elite squad, with most of their key players all under the age of 23, including the 18-year-old phenomenon Kylian Mbappe.
All the people expecting all the teams playing there in the Champions League win the Champions League. So the English media want the Manchester City has to win the Champions League. I think the French media, maybe PSG, but there are a lot of peoples and there are a lot of good teams, and we have to accept that next season try to do better to go next stages.
To talk more on Champions League, we've got Gabriel Marcotti, who is live from London. Gab, thank you very much for coming on to Beyond the Game. Of course, we've got to start with City Monaco. What exactly went wrong for Guardiola's side?
Well, I think there's a macro answer, which has to do with the way this team was built in the summer, some of the choices that were made. I'm thinking of the goalkeeper and certainly the defense that's really dogged them all season. And there's a micro answer over these two legs, both at the Etihad, where they won 5-3, came from behind, and in this return leg. There were some major individual mistakes, both at the attacking end and primarily, again, at the defensive end. And really, they go out on aggregate, but they really should have done better. Without taking anything away from Monaco, it was fair to expect more from Manchester City.
Of course. Well, Pep said that his team were inexperienced, but here with Monaco, you've got a team of teenagers and 21-year-olds. I mean, is that a fair excuse, or is that just a cop-out?
It would be a cop-out. I think something was maybe lost in translation. I'm going to give Pep the benefit of the doubt here, and I think what he means is they're inexperienced in terms of Pep's system. He doesn't have a chance perhaps to implement his philosophy fully because it's his first season, but really that's the only excuse that I think can be accepted.
Okay, well, when it comes to Monaco's young side, do you think that they'll feel the pressure going forward because they are the only representative of Ligue 1?
I'm not sure. I mean, Monaco, they've had this tradition in recent years. They have a strong youth system. They look to bring in talented youngsters, develop them, and then sell them on. These guys seem pretty unflappable to me, but you're right. It will be a big test because, remember, not only are they in the Champions League, but they are also nursing this 3-point lead over Paris Saint-Germain, a veteran team, a much wealthier team, and yet Monaco are ahead of them in Ligue 1, and it's likely going to go down to the wire. So I think that is a lot of pressure, and we'll see how Leonardo Jardine handles it.
Okay, it'll be interesting. Well, looking ahead to the quarterfinals, there's been quite a few twists and turns and comebacks already this year. Is this the season where we're going to see an outsider other than, Real Madrid, Barcelona or Bayern Munich actually winning the Champions League?
I mean, I think it depends to what degree you stretch the definition of outsider. I mean, really, I think the only legit outsiders left in the competition are probably Leicester City and Monaco, in terms of teams that, obviously, Leicester, their first ever Champions League participation. Monaco had been there before, but they haven't been in a final since 2004. Everybody else has been in a final in the last 5 years. So I think that plays into it. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. I think there's still a very big talent gap. There's an experience gap. There's probably a coaching gap as well. And so for my money, I think Leicester and Monaco, I think their run probably ends in the next round.
Okay, Well, one of the teams that we just mentioned, Bayern Munich, they're currently 10 points ahead in the Bundesliga, and they're looking very comfortable after their demolition of Arsenal in the Champions League. Everything seems to be looking a bit rosy for them, but do you see a chink in their armour?
Well, I think one obvious thing is despite their big lead in Germany, I think they haven't been playing as well as many would have expected when Carlo Ancelotti came in. You know, you have to separate sometimes results from performance. There were situations where they were fortunate, other situations where it came together and they rode their talent. Ancelotti is a veteran coach. I had an opportunity to spend some time with him in January. He looks for his teams to come together and peak at the right time. And I think if you're a Bayern fan, you're hoping that that time will be April and May, which is when the Champions League really gets decided.
OK, I suppose we just have to wait for the draw now. Thanks for coming on to Beyond the Game. Now, football fans may still remember the football legends Antonis Nicopolidis from when he was in goal when Greece surprisingly won the 2004 Euros. Well, he's now helping refugees stranded in Greece to feel a sense of hope by building a football team named exactly that, Hope. Christine Piriophalakis has the story.
They look like normal football players. They train like normal football players, but they're not. Typical, at least. They are refugees stranded in Greece. But thanks to a former Greek football legend, Antonis Nicopolidis, they now have a welcome distraction to their everyday routine. Nicopolidis, who was the starting goalkeeper for Greece when they became surprise European champions in 2004, helped build the team named Elpida, which means hope in Greek. All its members are refugees fleeing war zones in Syria, Yemen, Iraq, and Afghanistan.
Our idea was to create a football team just like any other normal football team. Our main target is to improve the living quality of the guys that play for Elpida. We want to give them a 2-hour break from their everyday problems. I really believe that playing football helps them to be happier, more creative. UEFA has been funding this project alongside with the municipality of Piraeus, which has provided us with a training pitch.
Elpida's captain is Ahmad Fahim Ahmadi. He's one of the few members of the team who's had some professional football experience before joining Elpida.
Football is a goal for me, and I'm coming because of football. I was a youth national player in Afghanistan. Started from under 15 national youths up to 17. Then I moved to Greece. My football dreams, I will be play as a professional in Europe. My goal is I will play in Barcelona.
Fahim was forced to leave Afghanistan after his life was threatened, and his route to Greece wasn't an easy one.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, and Greece. I was a famous player and I had a job, it was good, and I got a lot of treatings by ISIS people so that I should leave Afghanistan.
The Greek government hopes the team will send out a global message through football.
Here in Greece, we had a very difficult time. We resolved 2 months ago the problem of how all these people could survive, and now we want to make their life better. You can see it, I think. They feel things that they had years to feel.
More than 60,000 refugees and economic migrants live in camps around Greece while they wait for asylum applications to be processed. But with the current pace of relocations, most of the team's members expect to continue wearing Elpida's jersey for some time.
Now over to the world of Super Rugby, where the third round of fixtures gave us plenty to talk about. Last year's champions, the Hurricanes, suffered their first defeat of the season against fellow Kiwis, the Chiefs, who are one of 3 sides still unbeaten after week 3, while the Stormers racked up the highest point tally of the round, picking up an away win against the Southern Kings to also keep their 100% record going. And the Jaguars also managed to get a first home win under their belt against last year's runners-up, the Lions. Well, there's only one man we want to talk to when it comes to Super Rugby, so let's head over to Cape Town to speak to the expert, Mark Keohane. Mark, always a pleasure to see you. Let's start with last weekend's games. Now, 5 games were either within a score or 10 points. Are we seeing more of a competitive season?
No, we just seen a round that was pretty cool because the New Zealand teams played against each other. You had a Crusaders side that went to Brisbane and played the Reds, and people always tend to struggle over there in the beginning of the season like they do in Durban because of the humidity. I don't think it's going to be competitive at all. Competitive is when the Kiwi sides go toe-to-toe against each other. It was a fantastic game in terms of intensity, the Chiefs up against the Hurricanes, but the weather conditions were appalling. It was a home game for the Chiefs, so not a great surprise that they won. In South Africa as well, Stormers were expected to put 30 points plus the Kins. So no, I don't think it's competitive. I think it's still going to be the Kiwi sides. I think the big talking point was the Lions Centre weakened side to Buenos Aires for the second successive year. They came a cropper, and that could be crucial to their playoff hopes of ending top of the table, because the Hurricanes coach had said the draw so favours the Lions with them not playing any Kiwi teams. They get that win in Buenos Aires, they get a good draw at home, they could go top of the log, quarter-final home, semi-final home, final in Johannesburg. I think that defeat in Buenos Aires could do them a lot of harm when it comes to determining whether you're first, second or third.
OK, well, the Brumbies picked up another win last weekend, but they're in the headlines for other reasons as well. There are whispers of a growing possibility, a merger that would see the Brumbies out of Super Rugby. Any truth to this?
Well, the Sands are clever guys, as always. They had a big meeting in London, said nothing and said everything. Wouldn't give a press release, said there's going to possibly be changes to Super 18, to Super Rugby, and then all the talk started. Well, 3 teams are going to go, 2 are going to go. 1 has to go in Australia, 1 has to go in South Africa, potentially 2 have to go in South Africa, and the Kiwis are pushing for it. The imbalance in Super Rugby is the commercial strength is with South Africa, to a lesser degree Australia, and now Japan. The playing strength is with New Zealand. New Zealand doesn't want these one-sided contests. They also want a system where their teams play each other and also play every other team. So they're saying, why should we be in the tournament? You need us because we're the best. South Africa's saying you need us because of the commercial value. Australia, they've got the best deal of everything. They give very little. They needed a competition that was international, that went for 7 months. They didn't have an old NPC or Currie Cup. They benefited in terms of giving the game mass appeal. But their teams are struggling, and because of that, the spectator numbers are down, the television audience is down, and they're in a very competitive market against Aussie rules, rugby league, cricket, and obviously any other winter sport there. So again, a big stuff up from Sanzar. I don't think it will be chopped. There's too many politics in South Africa, too much going on in Australia. You may just have a Super 18 with a different playing format next season.
Well, if anything, it puts even more weight on the Brumbies Waratahs fixture. How do you see them getting on with that?
Well, you know, they say a derby's a great leveller. They effectively Sydney-siders, even though Canberra's just up the road. I think the Waratahs have been abysmal. It's the worst ever performing Waratahs side in the history of the competition that's come to South Africa. It's the first time they never got a win. They got hammered in Johannesburg. They took a whipping in Durban. The Brumbies, I think they're a better coach side. They're more constructive. As I said, that derby element will make it closer than it should be, but I have the Brumbies to win quite comfortably.
OK, we'll keep an eye on that. Stormers, they've made it 3 from 3. Do you think that they can actually pose a challenge this year?
Well, they made it something like 7 from 7 and then 15 from 15 until they played against the New Zealand side last year. And we know what happened there in a home quarter final. They took 60 points. So they've been impressive in that they've changed their style of play. They've changed their mentality. But there's also been a lot of imbalance to their playing style. It's a side that's caught between 2 worlds at the moment. I think we'll have a fair idea when they go on the road to New Zealand and they play those 2 away games and when they entertain the New Zealand sides here. I still expect them to be more a top 8 than a top 6 side.
All right, great talking to you, Mark. And staying very quickly with rugby, it's going to be a pretty manic weekend in Dublin as England try to make history in the Six Nations. Whoever wins, it's going to be one heck of a party.
I'm Lance Santos and we're in Dublin ahead of England's road to the record. Remember, no side in World Rugby's ever notched up 19 consecutive wins. Surely there are not many greater tasks in World Rugby than coming to Dublin and walking away with a win, let alone on St. Patrick's Day. Join us on Friday for our special programme of England's road to the record.
Right, it's time for a quick trip around the world to see some other sporting stories making headlines. Starting in Spain, and Czech Esther Ledecker and Austrian Andreas Pomager were both crowned champions at the snowboard parallel giant slalom final. Ledecker defeated Switzerland's Patricia Kummer by 0.19 seconds, while Pomager beat fellow Austrian Benjamin Karl by 0.12 seconds. Cue the gasps. Australia's Nick Kyrgios has caused an upset at Indian Wells by beating the three-time defending champion and world number 2 Novak Djokovic 6-4, 7-6 in the fourth round of the BNP Paribas Open. And Zanzibar has become the 55th member of CAF. The induction means that Zanzibar's national team will be able to enter the African Cup of Nations qualifying, and its association will have a vote on continental issues. Now, one of the UK's oldest annual sporting events, the 163rd boat race, takes place early next month. Oxford and Cambridge have revealed their teams at the official weigh-in ahead of the race, and it looks like they're in a pretty confident mood.
An early chance to eye the opposition, and for some, perhaps gain a psychological edge. Two historical rivals, but for these rowers, a fresh challenge to win the bragging rights for 2017. In the men's race, Cambridge are the reigning champions, ending a run of Oxford dominance last year. And the Light Blues president, who was in last year's winning boat, feels his team are in a good position to repeat it.
We're confident that if we deliver the processes and, work through what we know we need to deliver on the day, that will be enough to take the victory. So we're focused on the processes rather than the outcome, but we know that if we get the processes right, the outcome will also be right.
The official boat race weigh-in is the first time each team is able to assess the competition. And for the Oxford rowers, seeing their rivals in the flesh got the adrenaline flowing early.
So we've been training for the past 6 months, and you're just training by yourself in Oxford with all your teammates. So this is the first time you're actually confronted with the opposition. And it's great. It just adds to the fuel. It's amazing. I like it a lot. They behave like I expect them to behave, and that's exactly how I want them to behave. So I feel very good about it, even better now than I did yesterday.
And it's not just the men weighing up the competition. The women's race is now in its 3rd year on the championship route, and they are relishing sharing the limelight with their male counterparts. And the rivalry is just as intense.
There's always a bit of posturing that goes on, obviously more with the men, all the testosterone. Women are a bit more subtle about it, but you can see it happening. You're always eyeing up your competition. You always want to know who you're seated across from, and, how does she look compared to me? I'm confident.
For Cambridge's women, last year was dramatic for all the wrong reasons. Adverse weather meant their boat nearly sank as Oxford won by 24 lengths. But this year, the added experience of some new additions mean the Light Blues are not letting last year's struggles play on their minds.
Last year happened, and this year it's a new team, and I expect a new result. I'm confident that Cambridge have an immensely strong team this year, and just a wealth of experience, and rowing a boat with such strong girls, I think we can do some serious damage.
As far as weights are concerned, Cambridge will have the heavier crew for both races, but any significance of this was downplayed by both sides. The true comparison will take place on the Thames early next month.
In the NBA, things are getting really close to the playoffs, and the Chicago Bulls really need to up their game in order to qualify. The Bulls lost for the 6th time in 7 games, this time from the Memphis Grizzlies. Mark Conley and Marc Gasol each scored 27 points to lead their team to a 98-91 win. Memphis, who had lost 5 straight games before winning on Monday, earned its 2nd straight win. Chicago's Dwayne Wade sprained his right elbow and will miss the rest of the regular season. All right, that's it from us at Beyond the Game. Thank you very much for watching. And we've got just the tonic for you if you like speed, water and sun. The Youth America's Cup 2017 in Bermuda. Bye.